nation. And still, we're going to be looking at the issues concerning legislative politics and governance. You agree with me that there has been this strife and this issue concerning the arm of government, being an apron string to the executive, and the need to have good legislative business that would help to really transform the society, help to really look into the oversight functions and to stabilize the arms of government. We know, and it still is, that the legislature is the arm of government that is responsible for making laws, and of course after that the judiciary that interprets, and the executive that implements. And we're going to be having this discussion with array of personalities, starting from my far left. We have a lecturer, University of Benin in the Political Science Department, Neville Obakedo. Thanks for joining me, Neville.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers at home, and congrats to Seneca.
This one you just mentioned. Well, big congrats also. Well, quickly, next to him, we have a political analyst, and he is Fred Uyigwe. Big thanks for joining me, Fred.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Phillips. And to you viewers, I say good morning.
Fred Uyigwe also is a politician and was an aspirant in the Edo governorship race. And still, at my immediate left, I have a human rights activist, Solomon Idiogbe.
Good morning, Philip, and yes, I hope very good morning.
All right, so what we're looking at, the crux is on legislative politics and governance. But let's look at the development of the legislature. We have it in other climes where they are seen as a very respected arm of government, that really can't be pushed away or pushed aside by the executive or any other arm. Can we say that of Nigeria's legislature, Neville?
Talking about Nigeria legislature, the Nigeria legislature is a product of the Constitution, because at the federal level, the Constitution establishes the Senate and House of Reps. At the state level, the State House of Assembly, and at the local level, the legislative arm of the local government area. Now, the Constitution did not leave anyone in doubt about the functions of the legislature at the three levels of government. Now, that is the theory. It is the practice that we are now going to be looking at, whether it is comparable to what is happening elsewhere.
Living up to expectation.
Yes. That leads us to the issue of the recruitment process. How do you recruit people into the legislature? How do you recruit people into the executive? And how do you recruit people into the judiciary? Because the Constitution that defines the functions of the legislature also defines the functions of the executive, also defines the functions of the judiciary. Because it is these three organs of government that work in synergy to achieve the objective principle for which the state in Nigeria, in this context, is established. Now, when I talk about recruitment, I'm talking about the processes that threw up these members of the legislature. Because that will determine their relationship with the executive. And so we have had various republics in Nigeria. And we have had various epochs of the National Assembly. And right now, at the national level, we are talking of the Ninth Assembly. Talking about the Ninth Assembly...
No, not yet. We're looking at this aspect of the legislative politics and governance.
Okay.
I just wanted you to throw light in that direction.
Okay.
Why I also, you talk about the experience in the EDHA, because all of this is really popping up as a result of some constituencies really suffering in the Edo State House of Assembly.
Now, if the objective principle of the state is for maintenance of stability of the state, is for welfare of the citizens of the state, is for security of the citizens of the state, it therefore means that both the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, they will work together to achieve the stability of the state, to achieve welfare of the people.
Do we seem to have this in Edo State?
That is what I'm coming to now. And then to achieve security of the state. Now, because of the way and manner people are recruited into these positions, it becomes difficult for the synergy to be seen and to manifest. I'll give you an instance. Members of a political party, for example, in the case of Edo State, if you want to cite this as an example, members of the state, say for example, APC, they can say they want to recruit people, appoint people or nominate people through consensus or elect people through direct primaries, yes, to get their members that will represent them in the House of Assembly. After election, for example, all of them, APC will now win the state, the 24 seats. Because the process that brought those members was not a transparent, direct process. Each member or a group of members are brought by powerful elements in the party. They will not be able to say they want to work with the executive because the executive is the governor in this case, may not have had one person as his own candidate that is in the House of Assembly. In that case, the governor will not be at, is occupying that position as governor, will not be at the expense of the godfathers and semi-godfathers who brought people to be elected to the House of Assembly.
So what you're saying is that if this process of election, like the consensus mode, is brought to bear, it doesn't encourage transparency. Is that what you're saying?
When we are talking about consensus, if you say consensus, before you say consensus, even though there's a caveat to the new arrangement of the law now, it is like 2, 3, 4, 5 people are out. And the party has met the members of the party. They have met and discovered that out of these 3 people that are out, you, my co-discover, you know that Gyogbe is contesting, an aspirant. Philip is an aspirant. And I'm an aspirant. You know that out of the 3 of you, this one will represent us well. Are you getting it? When I'm talking about consensus, you don't just wake up in the morning and say, this is the consensus because we have big wigs in the party. The leadership of the party and members of the party will reach out to the candidate. From there, the issue of consensus will now come up. We know that we have seen your credentials, we know your performance, previous performance. Let this one go. And then you sell that idea to all the people who determine who to be the candidate of the party. Otherwise, it should be direct primaries. Let the members of the party, carry members of the party, determine who should be their candidate. In that case, there is democracy from the party.
So you go with direct primary?
Yes, I go with direct primary because if people sit down at Abuja or sit down in high position of high places in the state capital, and they just believe that this person that is coming up is our person, we have the resources to make the person to become the candidate of the party. They have a way of manipulating the process to say that is what they said. They said from Abuja that this is the candidate. They said from Benin, this is the candidate. Or they said from Ibadan, this is the candidate. Before you know what's happening, that person becomes the candidate. Others who may have represented the party well in terms of elective position when they are elected, they are not given the opportunity. And so, if you allow direct primaries and all aspirants and all godfathers, all big wigs in the political party, they know that if they did not play politics well when they had the opportunity, that the candidate they are supporting may not win direct primaries. They will now have to be alive to their responsibility when they have the opportunity.
Okay, let's drive the points home directly. Looking at the present issue concerning the 40 members elect saga in the Edo State House of Assembly, reports have it that they're really reaching out to the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, AYU, over intervention to really talk with the governor of the state and the deputy on need for them to be inaugurated. What do you make of that? Have we passed that post or goal post or point where we can say it should be cut back?
It is very funny how our leaders who make these laws, who have access to a written constitution, who pretend not to know what the requirements of the constitution is. It's pure and simple. The legislators needed to have been inaugurated following a proclamation of the governor.
Yeah.
And the governor had his proclamation, for which these 14 legislators were absent. Whether it was properly inaugurated, whether the proclamation was timely or deliberately conducted to exclude these people, that is a question for the courts to answer.
Of course.
They had their recourse, which is to go to the courts. And they need to have documented their demands. What we are suffering here is this. The people have given the governor a mandate as the chief executive officer of the state. And on the other hand, they have given the legislators mandates to make laws for the people and to oversee what the executive does. So the people stand to suffer if any of their mandates is undermined. The governor at the time, we all know, fearing that the legislators were not from his camp, because initially belonging to the same party, he had thought that they were all going to be working together. But the rat, or was it the cat, that was let out of the bag, gave him reasons to fear that should he inaugurate these 14 members or some of these members, he stood to be impeached. It was a palpable fear. It was a realistic fear.
You are just telling us what probably might have transpired behind the curtain.
Yes.
But we don't have facts to buttress all of this, you're saying. But,
yeah, because it was all this was in the media. All this was in the public domain. Okay, so I'm just recapping. What transpired to bring us to the point where we are. Okay. The mandate of, excuse me, sir.
But because if you are saying that, you seem to be giving impression why such inauguration was done.
No. Well, even if that were the case, that exposes the deficiency of the system, the deficiency of the laws guarding the system. Because the laws are supposed to be such that they are so robust as to protect both the governor from an abuse, a potential abuse of the legislators, and to protect the legislators from the potential abuse of the governor. That is what we don't have. We do not have laws that protect them. We are a growing democracy. These deficiencies, as they are exposed, should become topical for everybody to reconsider and give reasons and give everybody reasons to say, look, let's make amends. And that is where the National Assembly comes in, because they have seen the experience of Edo State. They have seen the events that transpired in Edo State. And they know that it does not augur well for a stable democracy. And so, needs to be corrected. Where we are, 14 members who were not inaugurated, their time is almost expiring. I think it's been almost 2 years.
So it's a pathetic story.
So, yes.
Are you saying it's a pathetic story?
Yeah, hold on now.
Okay.
These guys had the opportunity to have gone to the court, and they did go to the court. Beyond going to the court, inauguration, which has to be conducted by being sworn in by, I think, the Chief Justice of the state.
Clerk of the House.
Clerk.
Or the Clerk of the House. Well, by the Clerk of the House. That is something to look at. In the absence of the Clerk of the House, can there be an alternative to having all these people sworn in without being held to ransom? So this is a deficiency of the operation of the system. These guys, they have been out of office for longer than the Constitution.
So what you're saying literally
guarantees.
is that the milk has been spilled. So it can't be
So
gathered
because
back.
of the system, because of the deficiency of the
Yes,
system,
yes.
they are not protected.
Okay.
So the time has elapsed.
Okay, okay.
So INEC should step up to their responsibility to conduct a fresh election.
For the sake of the constituencies that are
Because
really having
for
a
the sake
setback.
of the constituencies, because
Okay.
they cannot be left in abeyance.
Yeah.
So these are things that we hope that those who are directly affected, the uninaugurated legislators, should take before the National Assembly.
Okay.
If not for now, if not for their sakes, but for posterity's sake,
Okay.
in making corrections to what we need to do.
Let's take your bite on it, Solomon Idiobe, because this seems to be coming late. We hardly can tell what you can do in that regard, or is it a bargaining chip?
I may not be able to say what IU, which is the National Party Chairman of the Democratic Party, can do, because for me, I do not see Mr. Governor listening to anybody. The issue of inauguration of party members, excepting there is a legal verdict, like a court judgment,
Which is being awaited.
to be pronounced. But for individuals, because I know that the National Assembly at the point need an attempt, and they were
Yes.
restrained. And the presidency at a point made an attempt. The party, as it then was, had been
The Attorney
left alone,
General, yeah. Yeah.
made an attempt, and they were all restrained. And that also tell you to the extent that the governor was willing to go on the matter. All hope is not lost as far as I'm concerned. He asked if the inauguration was still possible. Of course.
For the 14 members.
Well, of course, if the person sitting there today as a speaker of the State House Assembly so decides
Except that will be coming from the court.
It has to come from
Because it's already in the court.
No, you see, listen.
And so that's why I'm saying that.
Listen.
Is there
Philip.
much even the PDP chairman can do?
Philip, this is perhaps what you do not understand. If the person sitting at the ends of affairs of a house today as a speaker decides to swear them in, he swears them in, and that becomes, the issue of the court becomes secondary. The reason why they are in court is
But the
to
law,
seek-
but you
is
can't
to
leave out,
seek-
you can't leave out the law in that regard. Yes, you
Well,
can't leave out the
listen,
law in that regard.
for me, you are talking from a perception, and I'm talking from a broader perspective.
Okay.
That this you're applying that this people represents a constituent or represented a constituency. They were, whether in error of commission or omission, elected or selected to represent a constituent. They were, and they are expected to represent a people. And these people, as we speak, are denied legislative rights. Maybe I should say this clearly, that one of the Bush radio messages we got while the former speaker was
When you say are denied, please, I want you to really discuss that with me critically.
Clearly.
When you say are denied, because we remember vividly where they were called for
now
inauguration.
you are taking us back to the issue of the inauguration.
They seem not to honor it. So,
No, not
so
seem
will it
not
be
to-
right? Will it be right for you to say they are
all
denied?
the saga,
They are denied in that they are not sending.
yes, Philip, recall specifically
In that they are
the
not-
drama.
But they were invited.
No, Mr. Philip,
In that they are
the
not
drama
sending
that played. Recall how people came before. Your clips are still there in your library, where somewhere in the House of Assembly with Shotnika during the so-called inauguration. How a few hours to the so-called inauguration, these same 14 members were on air begging and asking Mr. Governor to make a proclamation for their inauguration. Only a few hours later, a so-called proclamation was made that was said to have been hijacked. Text messages were sent to some and others were not called. Now, you and I know that there is a standing order in the House Assembly that unless you are well dressed, you cannot carry out the duties or functions of a legislator. I recall very vividly.
Okay, drive your point home.
There's a dress code.
Yes, there's a dress code.
Yes,
I remember very vividly when the then governor, Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole, went there in his khaki uniform as he then was. He was sent back to present a budget that he must go back and dress properly. That was the same house that was desecrated with a short knicker, somebody coming to be sworn in as a member of the House of Assembly. And all the drama that played. So obviously, the other 14 members were denied rights of entrance. If you recall, some alleged that their phones were seized.
I think it's still before the court.
But the truth of the matter is that there is a way out.
Okay.
I'm sure part of the way out is, I don't know what the bargains are. Not for them to decide now that they want to write to the national chairman of a party that they do not belong, because I'm not aware that the 14 members are members of the People's Democratic Party.
Exactly. I think that's where some are saying that there may be a bargain.
So for me, I don't know very, very possible.
Okay.
You and I are not part of the 14 members denied rights of entrance into the assembly. But of course, it's our speculation that perhaps there is a bargain. But however, whichever way.
Bargain in contravention of the Constitution.
When you talk about contravention of the Constitution, whatever that has happened and has been happening in the House of Assembly has happened and has been happening in contravention to the Constitution.
Okay.
So interpretation lies.
I'll pause you there.
Interpretation lies with the court of competent jurisdiction.
Okay, I'll pause you there.
But unfortunately,
yes.
Mr. Philip, my fears is that people like us are afraid that there's almost nothing that will come out of the judgment in courts in Benin. You know why? You and I have, at one point or the other, opined that the legislative arm of government is an appendage of the executive arm of government, directly or indirectly. Ditto the judiciary that have been manipulated at times.
That's your opinion.
Yes, at a point. Yes, at a point we have.
So you can't say we. That is your opinion. You can't say we.
What agree? But of course, you and I, at a point, will agree that even the judiciary.
That's your perception.
The judiciary.
Because when you say you and I, are you referring to Fred?
You and us. You and us. At a point, will definitely agree that the judiciary, the legislator, are at a point hoodwinked or straitjacketed by the executive arm of government to do their bidding. I recall that there was a point, there was rumor in the state that the current Attorney General, was at a point harassing people over the issue before becoming Attorney General.
Okay, but we can't go on all this.
No, I said rumored.
Yes, rumored.
So
yes,
for me,
I'll come back. Okay.
For
finish
me,
on your point.
I think that the issue of the courts deciding in their favor in these states, to me,
the chances are slim.
Is slim.
Okay, let's get your bite on this because. What do you make of this? Is there a headway?
Who plays the paper dictates it too.
The RU intervention window, is there a headway?
First and foremost, I know Professor Yocha Ayu as a university don and a politician. He was one time Senate president, and the wife is from Edo State. And his deputy there was also an Edo State EDHA.
Yeah.
Barrister Legogi. But Legogi is late now. I believe that he means well for his party, which is PDP. And I believe that he's a man of integrity based on his pedigree.
Antecedents.
Yes. That he will be able to look at the letter from the Edo 14 and be able to advise the governor who is a member of his party. Because deciding this case in favor of the 14, the Edo 14, is dependent on the governor. So,
and not the court.
Yes, I believe.
And not the court.
And not the court. I will give you the reason just now. This matter will be debated, and at one point or the other, I was also part of those who made contribution to the subject matter. I don't want us to go back into it. Number one, I'm from Edo State. I know people on this side of the governor.
And on the other side.
I know people on the other side. Both of them, they have their own mistakes. That if the mistakes are to be investigated by the court will not spare other parties, based on my little understanding of the law. But that is by the way. We need to chart a way forward. The other day, I heard that the governor forgave one or two persons that maybe offended him, derided his position make up complimentary remark about his person and so on, in the spirit of the last Utah. And I also believe that
In the spirit of peace.
and
there were
as we
also also some comments in the direction that you should also extend same to the Edo
so
14.
I also believe that as 2023 is coming, because these persons that were elected as members of the House of Assembly that were never sworn in, they have some measure of political influence in their constituencies. So if the governor decides to toe the line of reconciliation and peace, then it will be good and fine,
And better.
both for him, the state, and for the constituencies. But let me just
And
make
for
this
democracy.
And for democracy in quotes, because I would like to use the word civilian rule in place of democracy, because what we have seen here is not democracy.
Oh.
There are certain comments I cannot make on television right now because I told you just now. I said from Edo State. No, they are legitimate, but
However,
because of the fact that I made a statement earlier that because I know people here, let me just reserve the comment. But let me just say that before you inaugurate House of Assembly, before you inaugurate an House of Assembly, whether National Assembly, whether State House of Assembly, there's usually a retreat for the members, especially for those that are just coming. Let them know the rules of the house they are going to enter, the dress code, everything that have to do with before the inauguration.
Like a refresher course.
Orientation.
Orientation.
The one that we are talking about now, the
2019, I'll be 28.
2019, I'll be 2018 election. The issue of this 19. I remember that the governor had a Thanksgiving meeting at New Era College, where he tried to encourage them to work with him because they are from the same political party for the betterment of the state. It was not a retreat. The next thing we heard is this brouhaha of inauguration and no inauguration. I quite align myself with the reasoning of my brother here.
Fred.
Yes. About the governor. Because as a governor, you are the one that is elected to pilot the affairs of the state. You are only going to work with the legislature and the judiciary to succeed in that regard. Then you are seeing it lucidly written, like the biblical mene teke of Asi. That some people, for one reason or the other, they want to guillotine you as the governor. I don't think any sane human being will fold this on us and allow people to remove you from office.
So what happened was expected.
Yes, what happened was expected.
Okay.
But is that good for democracy? Those who wanted to remove the governor, do they have the interest of the nation at heart, the state at heart?
I think that's exactly the challenges
Now,
we are trying to close.
Let me just end by saying that the matter can be settled. The matter can be settled just as they are taking the steps. How are they going to settle? If the matter is in court and they agree to settle, is to inform the judge that is presiding over the case.
Okay,
we are about to settle this matter now. So give us time to go and settle. The terms of settlement
becomes judgment.
Will now be written and be read as the
judgment.
judgment, and everybody will have it. So if you agree in court that if we are allowed to enter into this House of Assembly and we are inaugurated, we are not going to impeach the governor. You have a copy, the governor have a copy, the judge and the court, they have a copy. Then all of a sudden you now wake up again to say you want to impeach the governor. That is contempt of court.
Okay, I think like what Fred also said, I think
the issue of impeachment, the issue of impeachment is part of the legislative.
And lastly, that's why I said resolving this matter is dependent on the governor.
Okay.
But I want to make it. I just want to
the last one. Don't forget that the essence is to ensure that posterity, will be protected in this whole issue that happened. I think that was where Fred was also talking about the laws.
Yes, if we talk about posterity, sorry, sir. If we talk about posterity, the House of Assembly, as it is presently constituted, if you look at the Constitution, it's incomplete. It's not properly constituted.
Exactly.
And any decision they are taking that the governor is acting on is unknown to law.
Okay, thank you.
So when we are talking about posterity, that is the more reason why we need to resolve this matter now, so that we can go back and obey the rules of the land.
And of course, Fred Uyigwe and Solomon Ijogbe on legislative politics and governance, looking at EDHA experience. And quickly, all of these loopholes we're having in order to bring a bridge or close the gap from the essence of this discussion. We'll also be looking at the Ninth Assembly, looking at what really is transpiring. Some say that, well, this again, as an apron string, as some we say it, again, transpired in the recent passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill by the National Assembly. What do you make of that, Fredo Igwe? Why you may react to what was said by Neville Obahedo as a closer?
In all democracies, with due respect to the most celebrated democracies of the world, the three organs of government are always in competition, one with another. The legislative arm trying to usurp powers of the executive, the executive trying to usurp powers of the legislative arm, the judiciary is trying to usurp powers of the executive, and the executive trying to usurp powers of the judiciary. So there's always that competition.
Yeah, overstepping bounds.
Yes, because the lines, the dividing lines are not clear. They are not usually clear. But written constitutions make them clearer than unwritten constitutions. Fortunately, we do have a written constitution.
Of course we do. So that should make it clear. So and why we still have these issues.
It ought to be clear. It ought to be clear and transparent.
Or the language is not properly understood.
Excuse me, you just said it.
Ambiguous.
The ambiguity of the language, the interpretation of the language. That is why everybody has to defer to the judiciary to interpret what we all think we understand for us. So, because of this competition, when one arm of government, in this case now, the legislative arm of government, tries to exercise its powers, its constitutional powers, it often finds itself at loggerheads and at variance with the desires of the executive. And then the competition comes about. And then there's need to make compromise. There's need to dialogue and then to compromise. But when, like our prof has said,
Neville.
yes, as he has said, the process by which those who represent us are elected, the process by which they are thrown up into the system to represent us is faulty and dependent on godfathers.
Isn't that what the National Assembly had tried to change, even the House of Reps and the Senate?
They didn't change anything.
You know, that is what, like he has said, that the direct primaries stand to be able to
correct all of these issues.
Extricate us.
Okay, but they say it's very expensive and it could bring chaos.
It
could lead to insecurity.
It cannot be more expensive than the corruption cannot be more expensive than the corruption that emanates from the
indirect and consensus
system. So it is either we bite the bullet on one end, or we let the bullet pierce us penetrate from the other end. So we have to decide what exactly we want. But what we know that will give the people a peace of mind, that will restore power to the people, is to have direct primaries where everybody is a participant, where those who feel that they are competent enough, they are qualified enough to represent the people, can go directly to the people and campaign to the people and tell them and present their manifestos and defend their manifestos in public forums.
Okay, but that scenario played out even before the the Christmas and New Year holidays, where the National Assembly had to take a recess and came back.
And did the U-turn.
Yes, I don't know, but let's evaluate that the performance of the National Assembly in that regard, because some were thinking that as they come back from the Christmas and New Year holidays, they're going to come back, with backing at the executive, giving a bite or threats. But that didn't play out.
Look, there are two things there, sir. First is having an appreciation for the advantages as against the disadvantages of one system as against the other. Having an appreciation for it. Then there are those who, though they have appreciation for it, are thinking of their personal interests and playing the cards of their personal interests above those of the national interest. So you have to wait.
Okay.
You have to look at each legislator individually and say, where does this man stand? Is this man a patriot? Is this man patriotic to the cause of building our democracy?
Okay, thank you.
Or is this man looking after his personal interest?
Thank you.
That again is where the problem of consensus candidature comes
personal interest. Okay, let's get your view in this regard.
My view about the National Assembly takes us, it's just the same practical thing in Edo House of Assembly.
One and the same time.
Yes, because going from your positions, it was clear that somebody had a perception that if I allow this 14 to join this other, because they were not even 10 at the initial stage, they were less than 10. If I allow them join this group, they will end up overpowering this side and they will remove me. And they started doing all the horse trading, which led to the political quagmire, as we see.
So we have same on the National Assembly.
The National Assembly, to me, with all due respect, has demonstrated to people like Solomon Ijogbe that they are a toothless bulldog. Ask me what I'll tell you. The best form of democracy in Nigeria is participatory governance, and we have not experienced it. What will bring about participatory governance is allowing those members, members of any political party, participate in the election or selection process of their candidate, so that we can co-own the candidates.
Okay, so you agree, you are on the same page with Fred?
That, in fact, the three of us, I think, we are in agreement that the best form is direct primary. And so when the National Assembly threw up the issue of direct primaries as the only one and only option, I'm sure the same way Solomon Ijogbe greeted it with smiles was the same way Obakado and Uyigwe laughed and thought that, oh, we are close to Uhuru in this issue. And then the way they ranted.
So what happened? What happened during the holidays?
Because we are in a Ghana must go civilian rule.
Did you see that?
Of course, it's in the obvious that we are in a Ghana must go civilian administration. Like my brother said, the Nigerian political system is short of what is recognized as a democratic system of governance. And so it's better to say we are in a colored or decorated military juntaship in the name of democracy.
Okay.
And that is why that happened could happen. An assembly that came out to say, if the president refused to assent to this bill, we will override. Because there are provisions in the same constitution that gives the power to override the assent.
2/3 majority.
Yes, of the president if he refuses, in the interest of the state.
So you are among the Nigerians that were disappointed over the turn of events?
Of course we are disappointed that the National Assembly did not live up to expectation. They dashed the hopes of the Nigerian states and
of the Nigerian people.
Yes, because they were of course they have shown to us that they were selected, not elected.
We can correct this process in 2 minutes. Never look back.
Which process?
The whole aspect where something happens and then all of a sudden behind the scene the game changes, because there seemed to be
what process are we correcting?
There seemed to be a challenge where the National Assembly are not really having their way as they should in terms of helping to manage their policies.
The reason why the National Assembly is not having its way is because the National Assembly, as it presently constituted, the Ninth Assembly, they don't have the will to confront Mr. President, because they have their hands in one shady deal or the other, that they are afraid that if they say, Mr. President, this is the way we want it, based on the constitutional provision, they may set, they
will answer to EFCC the following day.
ICPC after them, or say EFCC after them.
That's your opinion, but don't forget again, most of them are in the same party.
The
leadership of the
and the president were all thrown on.
Was the governor and the G14 not on the same party when what happened?
Has the floor. Okay.
We need to understand the political process in Nigeria as it is presently. And the process is that the legislature, the constitutional provision and the definition of the function of the legislature, because of what the members of the legislature want to benefit from the executive at the state and federal level, they shy away from that their responsibility. They want to be didactic. They don't want to confront the executive to say, this is what you are expected to do it this way in the interest of our people. Because they believe that if they do that, when vacancies are declared at NNPC,
formula
they will not be able to bring their people to feed the vacancy. When they want to recruit people to Nigeria Defense Academy, they will not be able to send their people to go and join the Nigeria Defense Academy. When they want to share certain Nigeria resources, they will not be able to get their own share. So instead, if the executive sneezes, they will just be catching code and be pretending that they are there to represent the interests of the people.
All right.
If they are there to represent the interests of the people, the number one interest of the people right now as we speak is security. Where is the security in Nigeria? If you listen to news outside of your TV, these other news stations and platforms, you will discover that people who die on a daily basis in Nigeria right now, there are more than those who died on a daily basis during the Civil War.
Okay, thank you. We don't have the statistics. We can't record
if you need the statistics, you tell me I will provide them now.
Thank you. I think we're going to be having more time to discuss this in subsequent editions.
No problem.
Big thanks, Nebula Bakedo, for taking our time to be part of this show, and of course, Fred Uyigwe, big thanks, and Solomon Idiobe. Big thanks, and
thank you so much.
Thank you a lot for not biting too hard on the National Assembly, and of course, the executive in Edo State. There's so much we can take. It's still TMI. Do stay.